Hello everyone and welcome back to TimeXtender Tuesdays. My name is Taylor Hagan, Solutions Specialist in North America, and I'm happy to talk to you today about slowly changing dimensions and surrogate keys. Now at a high level, this is something that may make a lot of sense, but if we think about dimensional data as changing over time, we want to figure out exactly how to handle that data change. And this is essentially what SCD, or slowly changing dimensions, does. It tracks changes in dimensional data over time. Some common examples may be customer details, employee details, or product information. Each of these different pieces may have data that we either want to track, overwrite, or create as new records. Let's show you a more practical example and see if this helps. One of my favorite actors, Will Ferrell. Let's say that we have a table of the actor's information as well as the latest movie. Now, of course, this is a few years ago, but let's just use this as an example. Let's say the Lego movie is the last movie Will Ferrell has starred in, and we'll use this as our starting point. So, when enacting slowly changing dimensions, what we'll need to do first is pick a natural key, and then we can use the rest of the fields to track our slowly changing dimensions. Now, very quickly, a natural key can be in place of a primary key. As we talk later about surrogate keys, this will also fit into what the natural key is. This is just the record that we're using to identify whether a value has changed or not. Okay, now in this case we'll use SCD Type 0 for the actor's birthday, SCD Type I for the actor's agent's phone number, and SCD Type II as creating a new record. This is for the last movie. So every time this happens, let's say Daddy's Home comes out, well, because this last movie title will now be updated, what we need to do is also add a new record. Easy enough. Let's say another new movie comes out, Zoolander 2. Okay, well, we just said this new movie should necessitate a new record to be created. But let's say something else changes shortly after. Let's say the agent's phone number changes. This is SCD Type I, and what that means is we'll simply overwrite the changes. We won't create a new record. All right, and the final example, Daddy's Home 2 comes out, and we're able to first create that record, but we notice something different this time. This birth date has also changed, which tells us that perhaps there's an error, but at any rate, we've decided this is SCD Type 0, and we will not use this information to update. We're ignoring this change. So we'll wipe it away. All right, hopefully that clears up a little bit what SCD is and does. We'll talk about how these work in TimeXtender, Type 0, 1, and 2 that we just showed. These are all native to TimeXtender. Now, there are more types, but these are basically combinations of Type 0, 1, and 2. And because of that, you're able to use these in TimeXtender, but there aren't specific settings for each of these 3 through 6. And lastly, surrogate keys. When we talk about using a natural key in our slowly changing dimensions, it's important to know that we have another technique available if there is no obvious natural key, and that would be a surrogate key. In this case, we can use a DWID, which is one of the system fields, for us to use and track those changes. And we have our very own Wahyudi who will walk us through how to do this in TimeXtender.
That is a wonderful explanation, Taylor. Thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Wahyudi and I'm a solution specialist within TimeXtender. And today I'm going to show you how to use historical settings in my TimeXtender project. So let's take a look at my screen. I already got the data source added to my ODX and also got the actors information table into my data staging area. And now I'm going to add my actors information table into my modern data warehouse layer. So in order to do that, I use the drag and drop functionality from TimeXtender, and I will pick this one up and drop it at the modern data warehouse layer. Now you can see that this table is added, and we need some kind of unique identifier. So the field that I'm going to use is the DWID system field. And if I want to use that, I'm also going to drag and drop this field into my actors information table. Now I can see that this field is added to my table, and just to press the right mouse button, I can include it in my primary key. And now I know that if I'm going to choose that, now I know that I have some unique identifier. So those are the first steps to take in order to go to the historical settings. So first of all, I'm going to deploy and execute this table. And just wait a minute before we go to the next steps. Great, this one is done. And now I'm going to the settings. So I choose the submenu with the right mouse button, and I'm going to the table settings. And in the table settings, there are different areas with different kind of settings. In this case, I'm going to the history area. And here I can enable my history with all of the settings that I have to use. So let's enable history, and we can see what happened with the other settings. Now TimeXtender sees that there are some settings in other areas that can't combine with historical settings, and we will come back to that later. First of all, we're going to decide which kind of history we want to use. In my case, I'm going to use my soft deletes. So mark records as deleted, and I create a new record when a deleted record reappears in the source system. And I'm also going to update all historical records with new values on type 1 change. And this one, the last one I'm going to mark on, is the treat type 2 fields as type 1 when the previous field value is 0. Now I can also choose for which date I want to use. So let's say the valid from is the first default date field. So I will leave that to 1900 0000. Well, before I can hit apply, I need to get rid of this error. So I'm going to hover over with my mouse, and I can see, okay, there's another setting that isn't working. So let's go to the area where the error appears. In this case, it's the data extraction. And because I'm using historical settings on the table, I can't truncate the valid table. So I can't do a full load. So I have to mark this one off. And now you can see that the error is gone. So press apply and OK. And now we see in our MDW, we see a extra folder with some historical settings in it. And on the right, we can choose what we want to do. So first of all, we need a natural key. And then we can choose between the type 0, type 1 or type 2 settings. And let's say the natural key is my primary key. We don't want to use type 0. We want to update the agent phone number in the record. So we mark this one as a type 1. And if a new movie is added for this actor, then I want to add a new row within my historical table. So let's do that. Just mark it on. And just deploy and execute the table again. So now we have set two fields, one for type 1 setting and one is type 2, and that's the last movie part. So when this is done, we're going to look at the data and we're going to change some data fields and see what happened. Great, this is done. And now let's take a look at the data in this table. Well, you can see a lot of fields. I will show you the important one. So this is about the actor Will Ferrell, and he was born at July the 16th, and he's got an agent phone number that ends on 1234, and his last movie, in this case, was the Lego movie. So what I'm going to do now is to change this phone number into my source system, and I have that one on the side. So I will change the phone number to another number. And now I'm going to refresh my project. So first of all, let's transfer the data from my source into the ODX. Here we can see that it's running, and I think after a while it will be okay. And now we can see that it's completed successfully. And now we're going to execute the project with the two tables in it. So, and what will happen now is that our phone number, because of the type 1 setting, is updated in my modern data warehouse table. So let's take a look at that table again. So we're going to do a preview of it. And now we're going to look at the agent phone number, and we can see that it's changed from 1234 to 4444. And we are seeing that because of the type 1, this field is updated. So the next part will be that we will change the last movie title. And of this, from this field, we want to use some kind of history overview. So I want TimeXtender to add a new record with the new movie title in it. So I'm going to my source system and I will change the last movie title, and then we will see what happened. So I'm going to the site, change the last movie title, and let's do some steps again. So first of all, I need to transfer my new data. So I'm going to execute the data source in my ODX. And the next step is to execute the project with the two tables in it. So first of all, let's run this one, and it's completed. And now I'm going to execute the whole project. And because of the type 2 settings, TimeXtender will add a new row in this table with the same actor, with the same birthday, with the same phone number, but with the last movie title. And important is also that we are going to look at some date fields. So this one is done, and we're going to look at the actors information table. So we do a preview, and now we are seeing two rows in it. So as I was telling, the actor's name is the same. This is also the same. The new phone number, and here we can see the last movie title. One is the Lego movie that was in the source system before, and the new added last movie title is Daddy's Home. Well, the important thing of this is to look add my SCD from datetime and my SCD to datetime. So here we can see the valid of the row. So when we started, I loaded the row with the Lego movie. It got the default date setting, and because of I changed the last movie title, TimeXtender has added the original date, that it's March 9. And the new row, so the row that I added in this session, it started from March 9 and got his default end date. And also important is the SCD is current. Here we can see which record is valid at this moment. And this is a great example to see how easy it is to use historical settings into TimeXtender. So that's it for today, and I thank you for watching.